When global investors hear India and national security in the same sentence, their reflex is to think of fighter jets and border deployments. That reflex is outdated. India is constructing a security architecture that spans semiconductors, telecom networks, energy systems, logistics corridors, data infrastructure, and advanced manufacturing. The defense budget is part of the story. It is not the story. The numbers frame the shift. Defense production reached $17.6 billion in fiscal year 25, up from roughly $5 billion a decade ago. Defense exports hit $2.76 billion, representing more than a 34-fold increase from FY14 levels. Goldman Sachs projects 32% annual earnings per share growth for India's private defense firms between FY25 and FY28, driven by indigenization and export acceleration. The FY27 defense budget stands at $93.5 billion, a 15% year-on-year increase, with capital modernization at a record $26 billion. Private sector contribution to defense production crossed $3.7 billion in FY25, roughly 22% of the total, up from near zero a decade ago. Funding for military technology startups has grown 61-fold since 2016, reaching $192 million in 2025 across 211 investment rounds. But the real capital formation opportunity sits in the ecosystem surrounding defense, not within it. Starting with semiconductors, India's chip consumption market is $45 to $50 billion, projected by Deloitte to reach $120 billion by 2030 and $300 billion by 2035 at a 20% CAGR. UBS estimates 15% CAGR through 2030. Over 90% is currently imported. ISM 2.0, announced in the Union Budget 2026 to 27, shifts focus to equipment, materials, and indigenous IP. The roadmap targets 3 nanometer and 2 nanometer nodes by 2035. 20% of the global chip design workforce is Indian. Deloitte projects $50 billion in additional capital investment through 2030, generating 2 million jobs. Then, electronics manufacturing. Exports reached $48.2 billion in 2025, against a $300 billion domestic production target by fiscal year 2026. Mobile manufacturing units expanded from 2 in 2014 to over 300 currently. PLI allocations for electronics rose 54% year-on-year in the fiscal year 2026 budget. As far as data centers and energy infrastructure are concerned, operational data center capacity reached 1,280 megawatts by mid-2025, up 77% from 722 megawatts in 2022. The Strait of Hormuz crisis has exposed how refining capacity, strategic petroleum reserves, and pipeline logistics function as first-order national security infrastructure. India's diplomatic success in securing safe passage for its tankers through Iran's Hormuz corridor, while Western-flagged vessels could not transit, they demonstrated energy security as a strategic capability. When one talks about space, the economy is valued at $8.2 to $8.4 billion, targeting $44 billion by 2033. With 18 ISRO launches planned for 2026 and 399 private startups. The India Space Cybersecurity Guidelines 2026 formalize space as a domain requiring defense-grade cyber protection. The Strategic Defense Space Group, established at DefSat 2026, operationalizes military space doctrine. The trade architecture reinforces the security architecture. The February 2026 US-India trade framework keeps semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and critical minerals tariff-exempt, classifying them as strategic goods, not merely commercial. The India-EU FTA, concluded in January 2026, includes a security and defense partnership covering maritime security, counter-terrorism, and cyber defense. The EFTA deal secures $100 billion in European investment. A US-India critical minerals agreement is near finalization. Bilateral investment treaties are under negotiation with over a dozen countries. These are the commercial scaffolding of a security state. The AI Governance Framework establishes an AI Safety Institute and an interministerial AI governance group, institutions designed for sovereign digital capacity as much as market regulation. The Quantum Safe Security Roadmap prioritizes indigenous post-quantum cryptography. The Telecom Security Assurance Requirements Draft proposes source code review for devices sold in India, the most assertive device-level security measure any major market has attempted. For institutional allocators, the framing matters. India's investable security perimeter extends beyond defense primes to test and certification infrastructure, specialty chemicals for semiconductor fabrication, industrial software, electronic components, dual-use logistics, clean room construction, data centers, and energy storage. Goldman Sachs projects a $122 billion domestic defense market over 20 years. Deloitte projects a $300 billion semiconductor market by 2035. The $300 billion electronics manufacturing target is a third layer. The $44 billion space economy is a fourth. These are not parallel. They are integrated by policy design, procurement linkage, and capital formation incentives. India's current account deficit was 0.6% of GDP in FY25, lower than most peer economies pursuing similar industrial ambitions. FDI equity inflows rose 22% year-on-year to $47.9 billion in April to December FY26. Cumulative FDI since 2000 exceeds $776 billion. What India is building is not a defense budget with an economy attached. It is an economy with security logic embedded into its industrial, digital, and trade architecture. The investor who sees only the fighter jet misses the fabrication plant, the data center, the subsea cables, the test lab, the critical mineral supply chain, and the AI governance framework behind it. The upside is structural. The entry point is now.